Hey, welcome. This is Urban Politics. I'm your humble host, Fizz Ed Music. Want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. But right about now, I want to get right into it like a car and drive because there's all types of tasty politics for us to sink our teeth into. Let's start with our friend, your friend and my friend, Mike Pence. Mike Pence says Trump was wrong. Number one, he opened up with that. That was a jaw dropper right there. Some people left the room. We'll get to that. But he opened up and said Trump was wrong. I had no right to overthrow the election. One person should never control the will of the American people. Nothing more un American than that. That sums it up right there in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. Wanted him to disenfranchise 80 some million Americans and not accept electorates. Really, the vice president does not have the legal power to do that. And Mike Pence wasn't about to, basically thumb his nose at the Constitution and do this. So hats off to him for that. He quoted Justice Scalia. He said, "Our elections are ran by the states and not by the Congress." Wow. Blows me away right there. Now, these are two individuals who I don't agree with at all politically. Judge Scalia, that guy was super conservative. Mike Pence, I don't agree with these guys politically at all, but I have to respect what they're saying right here. What they're saying is this is a democratic process. You know, you need to have respect for it, you need to have some reverence for it, and you got to do what you got to do right there. Like he said, our elections are ran by the states and not by the Congress. One man, one woman, one vote. So that was Scalia backing that up right there. And you know what I'm saying? You had to hearken on him and then make that quote. He made these remarks at the Federalist Society. Now, that's a room full of lawyers and other guys who respect the rule of law. They respect the Constitution. So that's the reason why this was a real comfortable place to make these comments. Now, Mike Pence, he calls himself making a run in 2024. If he does, I hope he knows that most Republican crowds he speaks in front of are not going to be this warm. They're not going to be this welcoming, especially when he open up with comments like Trump was wrong. Even though that's true, right about now, facts and speaking facts do not get you anywhere in the Republican Party. Nobody wants to hear these facts. It's become a cult of personality, a cult of Trumpism, right? So we'll see what happens with that, but I hope that he knows that's coming for him. Now, even when he made these comments at the Federalist Society, which is, like I said, a room full of lawyers, a room full of Constitution wonks, if you will, a few of them even got up and walked out. Now, maybe these people at that point, felt their, their liver for dinner from earlier that morning or earlier that night kicking in, and they had to go to the bathroom and handle that, or maybe they wanted to remove themselves from the room because they did not want to be one in the number of the people who called themselves coming up against Donald Trump or saying something bad about Donald Trump. I don't know, but it is what it is, and a few people did notice people walking out when he made those comments. So we'll see how that fares for Mr. Pence. But right there, I guess that backbone he mailed away for it months ago. The mail's been slow because of DeJoy messing up the mail, right? So I guess it finally came in the mail, and Pence was able to get that backbone that he mailed away for, and he finally decided to use it and say that Trump was wrong, which he was, and that it would have been unconstitutional for him to not certify those votes. So moving on, let's talk about Jim Jordan. I want to talk about Jim Jordan because he comes from my state. Yeah, he's an Ohioan, just like your boy here, right? But he ain't doing right by Ohio. He's the U.S. representative representing Ohio's 4th district. He had a lengthy conversation with Donald Trump on January 6th. Yeah, they said it was a long conversation. The January 6th committee wants him to come in and testify. He, of course, has refused, like everybody else who they've asked to come in and testify. He forwarded a message to Mark Meadows, who is Trump's chief of staff at that time. And it was about some way that Pence could decline to certify the state's electors and some legal strategy that they had that was going to be able to keep Trump in office. And they said they had been working on all this for a long time, even as far back as 2018. There's been reporting on that. So in all of that, I saw a headline reading, Jim Jordan is a traitor to America, which I have to agree with. He is a traitor to America. They said he's been doing a lot of treacherous things to America, since Trump got in there, since he's got up Trump's wing or whatever and wanted to use him to kind of catapult himself to the top of the Republican Party, which he's done, so he's still doing it. He's all up under Trump, you know what I'm saying, taking his direction from Trump, going around here blasting out the big lie, doing anything he could to garner favor with Trump. So now there's this. He had that long conversation with on January 6th. He knew something about this insurrection that was going on, how it was going to take place, some of the intricate plans. Will he come and testify? He said no. Once again, like a lot of these other guys and gals, they're like, nah, I'm just not gonna come in. I'm just not gonna go and testify. And what are you gonna do about it? So now, he, like a lot of other people in the GOP, are taking this January 6th committee for joke. And what's really going on is the Department of Justice is afraid. They're afraid of political retribution. This is what goes on anytime any political party takes power. You know, when the Republicans are in power, then you're going to have a whole lot of different court cases and stuff saying that they did something wrong, and now we're trying to take them on. Now we want to show how they have been doing some fraud or something like that. It's always like that. Anytime one political party gets power, then the other political party comes after them claiming they did something wrong. It's always like that. The party in power is usually going to see a whole lot of lawsuits and a lot of litigation coming from the party not in power. And then once the party not in power gains power again, then they'll get the lawsuits and litigation coming at them. And we just do this circle each time somebody gains power in this country. And that's why people get sick of seeing it. People get sick of seeing it because they play these games while the American people are still hungry and hurting. But they don't care. They want a grandstand. They play these political games. They want to get on TV and make these big speeches and such. And when I talk about this, this is on both sides. A lot of times you will not hear that out of this program here. This is on both sides. Usually I'm like, nah, the Republicans are obstructing and that's what's up. That is true. But Democrats, they bear the blame for some of this too, because they do the same thing. We always play these games. You know, as soon as Republicans get power, the Democrats are going to be coming at them the same way the Republicans are coming at the Democrats now. It's always that way. And it really needs to stop. And it's why a lot of people get frustrated with politics. They get frustrated with the political system. And after a while, they just throw up their hands and say, I'm not even going to be involved with it anymore. I'm not even going to waste my time going to vote for these people, because when they get that power, all they do is use it to try and give political retribution to the other side, get back at them, and that's not what we're here for. You know, we're here so that laws and legislation can get passed to make people's lives a little easier. But none of that is what's going on a lot of times. A lot of times it's just one side trying to get at the other side. You know, trying to make them pay for whatever they did that was so illegal. Now, I'm not going to lie. A lot of times illegal things have going on. A lot of things have definitely going on illegally on the right. So should the Democrats be doing something to prosecute the guilty? Of course they should. You've even seen Republicans talk about that. There needs to be retribution. There needs to be accountability, because if not, you're going to see all this stuff just repeat itself. What does history do? It repeats itself. If we do not study and learn from our history, we are what? Doomed to repeat it. I guarantee you there'll be another coup. You know, because no one's learning from this one. There's been no retribution for this one. And this was like you know, a dry run of a coup. You know, it was sloppily done by people who aren't, you know, too intelligent or really know what's going on or know what they're doing. You know, they didn't act fast enough. There was a lot of little gaps they had in this one. The next one, they're going to seal up all those gaps. They're going to get their feet moving way earlier in the game. And they're going to make sure that some of these things that happened last time didn't happen this next time. And they're going to pull that coup off. Unless the Department of Justice does something. Unless Joe Biden and the Democrats do something to protect our democracy. Hear me now. They're going to do it again, and next time they'll be successful. And we'll see what happens with that. A lot of bloodshed and a lot of other stuff. But they need to watch that. See what I'm saying? So, is Jim Jordan a traitor to America? Sure he is. But no more of a traitor than Kevin McCarthy or some of these other fools who done followed Donald Trump right off this bridge that he wants to take America over with him. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about some sad stats. This is a sad statistics. I talk all the time on this show, and I tell you the numbers never lie, right? Men lie, women lie, but the numbers, ladies and gentlemen, they do not lie. So let's look at the numbers. A sad stat: 54% of American adults from ages 16 to 74 read below a 6th grade level. Now you think about that and you're like, well, 6th grade, that's not that low. And I hear that most things in society are put at a 3rd to 4th grade level to make sure that most people can understand them and read them, like stop signs and stuff like that, at a 3rd grade level. So that's a very American response to something, isn't it? People's education isn't high enough. Well, then make sure that you dummy down all the signs so they can understand it, instead of talking about ways that we can lift up people to be more educated or more intelligent. Anyway, moving on. Keep it real, my own story. I struggled with reading. A teacher named Miss Adams helped me. She was pregnant. She stayed after school. I was probably in the third or fourth grade. I could not read at all. I just couldn't. I just wasn't good at reading. Right. So she kept me after class. This woman was pregnant. I mean, big and pregnant. She was ready to pop. But she stayed after class. Kept me after class, broke out those remedial books, See Jane Run, See Dick Catch, stuff like that, and got my reading skills, back up to where they needed to be. And, I ended up getting held back in that grade, but it was for the best because I wasn't ready to go on because my reading skills just weren't up to par. But she got me there, and years ago, I had seen her in passing. And I told her at that point I was working in a high school, another school than the one I work at now. I told her I work with kids at a high school. And you know what I'm saying? I tell them all the time how you taught me to read. And she says, well, I taught you to read. Now you teach somebody. I taught you. Now you go teach somebody how to read. And I said, that's what's up. I said, I have, ma'am, and I will, ma'am. And we're going to keep it moving like that. So that's real. You know what I'm saying? That was beautiful right there. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it takes somebody sitting with you one-on-one, talking to you, getting those words in your head, helping you formulate sentences, helping you do all that type of stuff, right? I worked at an SED school, years ago, and the average reading age at this school, now SED, that's a school for severely emotionally disturbed youth. So a lot of these kids were like in group homes and stuff like that, and some of them, had criminal cases and stuff like that, and the average reading age there was third grade. That was the average reading level at that school, was third grade. And I had told a speech teacher that I ended up working with at the new high school I work at. I told her about this SED school I worked with and how I've been in mental health for all these years and how the average, reading level at this school was third grade. And she said, yeah, that makes sense. And I said, why you say that? She said, because at third grade, that's the grade when you stop learning to read and start reading to learn. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So think about that. By the time you get to third grade, you're supposed to have the mechanics of reading down. Even if you don't know all the big saucy words and all that, basically how to at least sound words out. You know about syllables. You're learning how the mechanics of actually just reading. So now you can use that reading to learn things. How do you learn anything? You read about it. How do you learn about making eggs? You read about it. Take egg out of carton, crack egg in pan, scramble egg, add salt, add pepper. You read these things. So a lot of things in this, especially in this society, the way we built it up, you have to read to learn these things. So in third grade is when you stop learning to read and start reading to learn. That was so interesting to me, and it explained a whole lot. Also explains a lot why Trump and the GOP love stupid people. Now, Trump said that in a video. People claim that it's Photoshop. Whatever. I think it's real. And whether he said it or not, he acts it. And they do. And why? Because they fear stupid people, or they fear people, or not. They love stupid people, or they love people who fear intelligence, right? And these are people who fear, like, I don't know what they would consider, I guess, an elitist society. It's weird to me because a lot of these guys in the GOP always talk about people being elitist. They try to call Barack Obama an elitist because he graduated from Harvard, when most of, if not all of those guys went to a Harvard or a Yale or a Brown or some other school that costs a ton of money to go to. None of these guys are from your bootstrap type people. They kill me with that. And the Republicans always try and get on there and act like they got it from the mud or something. Ain't none of them got nothing from the mud. All of them inherited their wealth or went to some big fancy school. They come from money. They got money. They want to act like they ain't got it. They all got it. Heck, they get $175,000 just to vote yay or nay on things, and that's just their regular salary. Not to mention all the millions they get from other little special interests and all this other stuff. I don't think there's anybody who's in our government who's making less than $1 million. You'd have to show them to me. You know what I'm saying? Let's do an expose on that man or woman, because there's a person not on the take. But by far, these ladies and gentlemen are making all types of money on and off the books, right? So when they try and act like they're regular people like me or you, kick that out the window. And that goes for both sides. You know what I'm saying? Republican and Democrat, they're all full of crap when it comes to that. Ain't none of them struggling. Miss Pelosi is a rich woman. Mr. Schumer is a rich man. You know what I'm saying? Mr. McCarthy is a rich man. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Mr. Jordan, Jim Jordan, he got bread. Okay? These people got bread, but they love it when people are uneducated, because those are easy people to sway. If you don't know anything, if you don't have any type of footing, you don't have any type of hold, on anything, I can just push you anywhere I want to push you, right? I can point you any way the wind blows. You ain't nothing but a human weather vane. And that's what a lot of these Trump supporters are. They're blank slates. I can write anything on there I want to, right? Because you're a blank slate. You don't have anything up there. You don't have anything to hold on to, so I can give you something to hold on. You don't have anything to believe in. I can give you something to believe in. Or I can tap into some other belief that you have and wind my story into it. Trump, evangelicals, there you go with that. So, you see what I'm saying? So that is the reason why a lot of times on the right, they actually don't want their constituents to be in the know, or people who follow the news or follow politics or follow policy or any of that. They want their people to be good old-fashioned Americans who don't follow anything or who don't know anything. So they can tell them what they want them to know and tell them what they want them to believe. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about something I rarely talk about on this program, but I'm going to tie it together. It all ties together. You know, I guess we're all connected. The writings on the wall. That's a quote from the UMCs. They knew exactly what they were talking about. I want to talk about sports. I want to talk about the Rooney Rule. Now, the Rooney Rule is a rule saying that teams must interview ethnic/minority candidates, black candidates, for head coach and senior football operation jobs. This came about because between the years of 1926 and 1989, there were no black head coaches in the NFL. None whatsoever. In 2002, Johnny Cochran, yeah, that brother, he's going now, God rest his soul, he sued the NFL in 2002. So then in 2003, that's when they came up with this Rooney Rule. And remember, all they had to do is interview a black candidate. They didn't say they had to hire them. They just had to interview them, right? So that is what it is. There's been a case, and you can Google all this. I don't have time to go into it in depth, but there's been a case lately of a brother who was up for these head coaching positions. And he would just go to these jobs just to find out, that basically he was just the Rooney. He was just a brother that they had to have there because of this rule. They're not giving him the job. They have no intentions of giving him this head coaching position, but they have to go through the motions and interview him just to say that they did it because of this Rooney Rule. So there's that Rooney Rule not being worth a quarter. If anything, it's worse, because now off rip, they were saying that, you see a brother in the lineup to be a head coach or get an interview or something like that. But, he's the Rooney, and they said that that's the name you get or whatever. So that's what that Rooney Rule has been doing, for Black America as far as the NFL goes, right? Then it got me thinking about affirmative action. Now, affirmative action was created to remove prior discrimination and prevent such discrimination in the future. Affirmative action, was like a quota system. So they would say something like, if you hire, 100 applicants, 1 or 2 have to be black. They have to be African American. Now, there's people who got mad at that because they're like, we should be hiring people based on their capabilities and their attributes and, their qualifications and such. True, but when you don't do this, then you end up having no minorities. You end up having no people of color. Sometimes you end up having no female representation because you didn't hold people's feet to the fire and make them do it. It just is what it is. In an ideal world, you would hope you wouldn't need things like these in place. But when you don't have them in place, then you end up seeing no representation. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So that's my whole thing with Joe Biden keeping his promise of nominating a black woman to the Supreme Court. Chef's kiss on that. We need that, and that's why this is major. Because we've had affirmative action, it ain't worked. It don't work. It hasn't worked. It ain't worked, right? We still, there's still plenty of places where people of color and women are not represented, right? We've got this Rooney Rule. It's a joke. It ain't working. It doesn't help because this is not an ideal world and people just do not do the right thing. So there's that. And how do we know this, huh? How do we know that, you know what I'm saying, this isn't an ideal world and people don't do it the way that you should do it when they're given the chance to do the right thing? A lot of times they just don't do the right thing. There's one black head coach in the NFL today. One black head coach in the NFL. His name is Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. There are 2 other non-white coaches out of 32 franchises. So there are 32 teams. We have 3 coaches who are not white and only one's black. The other 2 are something else. I forgot, I think one's mixed with some Lebanese or something like that. But how pathetic is that? And think about this. The NFL is 70+% black. I think it might be 76, 78% black. I know that from other reporting I've done on this show. That means only 9% of their leadership is non-white, not even black, non-white, 9%. That's what happens when you don't hold people's feet to the fire and make them include minorities and women. You don't get any. That makes no sense. Think about that. 32 teams, you got one black coach, head coach. One. And out of 32 teams, you have 3 coaches who aren't white. And they say it all the time, the NFL is ran like a plantation. Well, there it is, right? Because it looks like all the people doing all the work are all the people who look like me, and all the people not doing any work and who are sitting up there, here's the managers, are people who don't look like me, people who don't look like most of the people on the field. That's interesting, isn't it? I tell you, man, that's sad right there. But that's the NFL for you. They're not going to change unless they're made to change. Just like America. Just like the Supreme Court. What's ever been on it? Nothing but old white men. Then you had your ladies who got a chance. Then you got your Spanish ladies who have gotten a chance. Now it's time for an African American lady or a black lady to have a chance. And it takes a guy like Joe Biden, it takes a president coming out and just saying it out his mouth. The next person I hire for that job, yeah, they'll be qualified. Yeah, they'll have the background. Yeah, they'll have the poise for the position. They'll be poised for the position, right? You know what I'm saying? They'll have the skills for the position, but they'll also be the first black woman to hold that office. And he has to do things like that. Why? Because affirmative action, it don't work. The Rooney Rule, it don't work. When you hope and pray that people will do the right things, most often they don't. Right? So we have to step in and just make people do it. We got to step in and just put a black woman on the Supreme Court because there are a gazillion who are qualified and it's overtime. We're overdue for it, So that TI is what a TI is. What can I say? I tell people all the time, if you're black and you're still watching the NFL after just some of the reporting I've done on this show, you really need to check yourself because they be acting a fool over there. And I mean, the way that they have treated black people and continue to treat black people and just other people of color is egregious, but for whatever reason, it seems to float. A lot of you guys got to have your football so they still get support. All the things that they did to Kaepernick. To think that Colin Kaepernick, lost his whole career in the NFL, right? And here's a man who wanted to shine a light on an injustice, went to a veteran to ask a veteran friend of his what is the best way to do it. I've told this story before, I'm going to tell it again. He told maybe a fist in the air, and then the friend said, that's kind of militant, that fist. Sometimes to some people is like a sign of I want to fight or of anger, right? Or of aggression. He said, so really, something that's kind of humbling, it kind of shows humility is to take a knee. Maybe you take a knee during the national anthem. Maybe that's what you do to shine a light on injustice. Maybe that's what you do to shine a light on African Americans needlessly getting murdered in the streets by police officers. So the man did that, lost his whole career, lost everything. Now, a lot of people have said that Nike has had their own retribution when it comes to Kaepernick. Paying him all that money and then him doing that documentary and all that other stuff. There's that. But my point is that, football, the NFL, man, there's just a whole history of racism and racist things that are going on with that institution. So once again, like I said, if you're black and you still supporting them guys, you really got to ask yourself, is it that serious? You know what I'm saying? But once again, that's coming from a guy who ain't never got into football or any other type of sports. I don't never get into sports. I get into the sports of politics. That is my sport. And this has been my time, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you all for liking and subscribing. Please, if you like what you just heard or what you just watched, please take your fingers over to YouTube and like and subscribe Urban Politics. As always, I'm your humble host, Phys Ed Music. I want to say to everybody out there, a happy Black History Month. That's right, it's Black History Month, and I'm going to talk about that later on. But for right now, just hopefully go out there and get you some Black History facts. Let them simmer around in your head, and we'll try and get some little-known Black History facts and talk about them here on the show. But until then, as always, see you around like a donut.